I think I didn't do anything wrong, just had fun for one night. But when the courier handed me the envelope marked petition for divorce, I realized how fast one mistake can become your whole life's headline. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm not saying I did anything wrong. I just wanted to feel alive for one night, that's all. But when a courier showed up at my door this morning with a thick envelope stamped petition for divorce, I realized how fast one night can ruin everything. I didn't even open it right away. I just stared at my name printed next to his, Mirielle Voss versus Ethan Voss, and my hand started shaking. It's strange how something that felt so harmless, so small, can spiral like this. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. I didn't plan to betray my husband. I just went to a party with friends, had a few drinks, laughed with strangers, and let myself forget I was someone's wife for a while. But then there were photos, bright, loud, careless photos that everyone saw before I even sobered up. People online think they know the story. They think I'm this monster who threw away a perfect marriage for a few laughs. Maybe they're right. Or maybe they don't understand how quiet my house had become before that night, how invisible I'd started to feel. I never meant to hurt Ethan. I just wanted to remember what it felt like to be seen. The night started with laughter. I wasn't planning anything. I didn't even want to go at first. Clara begged me to come, said I'd been rotting at home too long, said I needed fun. She used that word like it was medicine. Fun. I told Ethan it was just a work friend's birthday. He barely looked up from his laptop when I mentioned it. Said, "Don't stay too late." That was it. No questions, no smile, no reminder that he cared. So I told myself that was proof I wasn't doing anything wrong by going. A married woman should be allowed one harmless night out. The party was at a hotel rooftop downtown, the kind with overpriced drinks and people pretending they belonged there. Clara wore this glitter dress that made her look like a walking disco ball. I wore black, simple but fitted, something that said I still existed. When we got there, music thumped through the floor, the kind that makes your chest vibrate. People were already tipsy, shouting over the beat, laughing too loud. For a while, I just watched. That's when I saw him. Leo. He was holding a camera, moving through the crowd like he owned it. Not one of those sleazy photographers who get too close, but smooth, confident. He asked groups to pose, told jokes, made everyone laugh. When his lens turned to me, I smiled automatically. He said something like, "Perfect lighting," and I laughed, pretending I didn't care. He took a few more shots and showed me one on his screen. I looked happy, too happy. Clara nudged me, whispering that he was cute. I said I didn't notice, but I did. Of course I did. Every time he walked by, my stomach twisted. I hadn't felt that in years. I told myself it was nothing. Just attention, just the kind of spark that makes you feel alive for a moment. We kept drinking. One glass turned into 3. I don't even like cocktails that much, but they kept coming. Leo came back around, offered me a drink, for the perfect smile. I said I wasn't supposed to, but I took it anyway. He asked about my ring, said something about how lucky my husband must be. I told him he didn't notice anymore. I don't know why I said that. Maybe because it felt true. The rooftop lights blurred a little. I remember laughing too loudly at something that wasn't funny. Leo started taking more photos, ones that felt private, me leaning on the railing, my hair blowing, his hand brushing mine to adjust my pose. Clara disappeared somewhere with another group. It was just us. He told me I looked like I didn't belong there, like I was too thoughtful for this kind of crowd. I told him I was fine. He said I didn't look fine. I should have left then. I knew it. Ethan probably assumed I'd be home by midnight. I even picked up my phone to call a ride, but Leo asked if I wanted to see the photos he took. "Just a few edits," he said. "They'll look amazing." I followed him inside the hotel without thinking. The elevator ride was quiet, except for the sound of my own heartbeat. I told myself I was only going to look at pictures, nothing else. Just curious. His room smelled like cologne and sugar from spilled drinks. He opened his laptop, scrolled through images of strangers dancing, then stopped on me. "See," he said, "you look alive." I told him it was just the lighting. He said, "No, it's you." Everything after that blurred together. A touch on my shoulder, a laugh that turned shaky. I remember saying, "This is stupid," but not leaving. I told myself it didn't mean anything. It was only one night. When I woke up, sunlight was bleeding through the curtains. My head hurt. Leo was still asleep, his camera on the table next to his phone. I saw the photos, the ones from last night, open on the screen. Some were innocent. Others looked different now that the music was gone and the world was quiet. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My lipstick was smudged, my ring turned inward. I felt heavy, like I was sinking into the carpet. I dressed quickly, told myself I could still fix this. No one had to know. I'd tell Ethan I crashed at Clara's, just like I said I might. He wouldn't ask details. He never did. I slipped out of the room while Leo was still asleep. Outside, the morning air was cold. The city looked almost too clean, like it was judging me. I called a cab, went home, and showered until my skin felt raw. I stared at myself in the mirror, trying to find guilt or regret, but all I saw was fear. Fear that maybe Ethan would somehow see it written on my face. He didn't. When he came home that night, he just asked if I had fun. I said yes. He said good. That was it. The whole conversation. For a second, I thought maybe I got away with it. Maybe I could bury it under chores and small talk and routine. But by Sunday morning, Clara texted me a link. "You're trending," she wrote, followed by a nervous emoji. I clicked. My stomach flipped. There I was, laughing on that rooftop, Leo's arm around my waist, his shirt on my shoulders. Dozens of pictures, all posted by his account, all tagged. My name wasn't in the caption, but my face was clear. My ring was clear. I texted him immediately. "Take them down." No reply. I sent another. "Now, please." Still nothing. By noon, people at my office had liked them. Some left comments. Harmless ones. "Looks fun, queen energy," but I knew what they were really saying. Ethan was in the kitchen when I walked in, scrolling his phone. I froze. He didn't look up right away. Then he said, "You didn't stay with Clara, did you?" I told him yes, of course I did. He nodded slowly, like he'd already decided something. "Then who's Leo?" he asked. My throat went dry. I said it was a misunderstanding, that he was just a photographer, that everyone was drunk. He asked why my ring was off in the photo. I said it must have slipped. He didn't argue. He just said, "Right," and went back to his phone. The silence after that was worse than yelling. He didn't touch me, didn't ask for explanations. He just moved through the house like I wasn't there. I told myself he was being dramatic, that he'd get over it, but I couldn't shake the image of that photo on his screen. My smile, my bare hand. Clara told me to relax, said people post dumb things online all the time. She laughed and said Ethan was too stiff, that he should lighten up. But when I got home that night, he was already asleep in the guest room. His side of the bed was perfectly made. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of that night, the music, the lights, the way Leo said I looked alive. I used to think I wanted that feeling again. But now, all I could feel was the weight of what I'd done pressing down on me, heavy and real. The next morning, I came downstairs and found the kitchen table empty except for a single piece of paper. It wasn't a note, just a printed screenshot of the photo, folded neatly in half. Underneath, in Ethan's handwriting, one line. "You always wanted to be seen, now you are." My hands shook as I read it. I told myself he was just angry, that it would pass. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. He wasn't going to shout, wasn't going to fight. He was going to do something worse. He was going to disappear from me, one calm decision at a time. I woke up the next morning pretending everything was normal. I made coffee, opened the blinds, even turned on the news so the house would sound alive. Ethan was gone before sunrise. He didn't leave a note, but that wasn't new. He liked his quiet mornings, his routines. Still, something felt heavier in the air. His toothbrush was missing from the holder, his razor too. Little absences that looked accidental but weren't. I told myself not to panic. We'd had small fights before. He always cooled off, came back, acted like nothing happened. This would be the same. He'd just seen the photos, overreacted, needed time. People forget fast online. The post would disappear in a few days, buried under someone else's scandal. I kept repeating that, like it was a spell to make it true. At work, though, the whispers had already started. My desk felt like an island surrounded by eyes. Dana from HR stopped by with a fake smile, asking if I was doing okay. I said I was fine, just tired. She nodded but lingered too long, her gaze flicking toward my phone where the photo still sat in my messages. I turned it face down. By lunchtime, even the interns were looking at me differently. A few were giggling near the coffee machine. I caught one whisper, "That's her," before they both turned away. I wanted to scream that it wasn't what it looked like, that I didn't even sleep with him. Not really, not the way they thought. But explaining felt useless. Once people decide who you are, no words can undo it. I texted Leo again. "Delete the photos, now." He finally replied hours later. "Relax. They look good. People love them." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. "I'm married," I wrote. "You're making me look like—" I stopped before finishing the sentence. He didn't reply again. When I got home, Ethan's car was in the driveway. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I walked in, ready to apologize, to say it was all a mistake. He was in the kitchen, sitting at the table with his laptop open. The printed screenshot from yesterday was gone. That felt like a good sign. He didn't look up when I said his name. I started talking fast, like I could fill the space before he said something worse. I told him it wasn't what he thought, that I didn't even know Leo well, that he just took photos for everyone. Ethan closed the laptop quietly and asked, "So you stayed at Clara's that night?" "Yes," I said quickly. He nodded. "You sure?" "Of course. Why are you asking again?" He leaned back, folding his arms. "Because Clara called this morning to ask if you were okay. Said she left the party early, around midnight." My throat tightened. "Maybe she forgot. She drinks a lot." He looked at me for a long time, then said, "I'm not stupid, Mirielle." His tone wasn't angry, just tired, like someone finishing a job they hated. "You could have told me the truth before the internet did." I snapped before I could stop myself. "The truth? You mean the version that makes you feel like the victim again? You ignore me for months, and one photo suddenly breaks your heart. Give me a break, Ethan." He stared at me, silent. That silence scared me more than yelling would have. Then he said quietly, "You know what's worse than betrayal? Watching someone twist it until they sound proud." And then he left the room. I spent the evening pacing, replaying every word. I hated how calm he was, like he'd already decided I wasn't worth the argument. I texted Clara, furious. "Why did you tell him you left early?" She said, "Because I did." "What's going on?" I typed and deleted a dozen replies. Finally I sent, "Nothing. Just drop it." By night, Ethan still hadn't come back downstairs. I opened a bottle of wine and told myself he'd soften once he realized I wasn't some villain. Men always came around eventually. They just needed time to remember who really took care of them. I'd cooked, cleaned, supported him through his boring job. One mistake shouldn't erase that. The next morning, he was gone again. Only this time, the guest room was empty too. I called him, no answer. Texted, nothing. When he didn't come home by noon, I drove to his parents' place, trying to look calm even though my heart was racing. Elaine opened the door, her face polite but distant. "Oh, Mirielle," she said softly, like she already knew. "Ethan's not here." "Did he say anything to you?" I asked. She hesitated. "He said he needed space." "That's ridiculous," I said. "It was just photos, Elaine. Everyone blows things out of proportion online. I didn't do anything terrible." Her expression didn't change. "I'm not the one you should convince." Peter appeared behind her, arms crossed. He didn't invite me in. That said everything. I left before I started crying. Not because I was sad, because I was angry. How could they all turn on me so easily? They didn't know what it was like living with Ethan, the constant quiet, the way he'd retreat into his screens instead of me. I told myself any woman would have done the same. Maybe not the same way, but close enough. That afternoon, my sister called. "Mir," she said carefully, "I saw the pictures." I groaned. "Oh, not you too. I'm just asking what happened." "I had fun at a party, that's all. Everyone's acting like I committed a crime." "You're married," she said softly. I rolled my eyes even though she couldn't see it. "Yeah, to a man who treats me like furniture." She sighed. "You can't fix boredom by burning your house down." I hung up before she could say more. The gossip got worse. Someone from work sent the photos to our company group chat. HR called me in just to talk. Dana's tone was fake sweet, the kind people use when they're enjoying your downfall. "We don't judge personal choices," she said, "but when they become public, it can affect professionalism." I nodded like I understood, even though my hands were shaking. When I got home, Ethan was in the kitchen again. He didn't look angry this time, just distant, like I was a stranger. He handed me an envelope. "Found these online," he said. Inside were printed screenshots. My face, Leo's arm, the comments below. I tried to laugh. "You're really going to collect internet gossip now?" He said, "I'm documenting things." "For what?" He didn't answer. He just picked up his keys and said he had errands to run. That phrase, documenting things, stuck in my head all night. I searched his office after he left, like I had a right to know. In one of the drawers, under a stack of receipts, I found a folder labeled Financial Review. Inside were bank statements, copies of insurance forms, and a business card. Thomas Eldon, family law attorney. Tomorrow's date was circled in pen. My stomach dropped. He wasn't cooling off, he was planning. When he came home later, I tried to act normal. I asked if he wanted dinner. He said he already ate. I asked where. He said, "Out." No more. His answers were so short they hurt. Before bed, I tried again. I told him I was sorry if I made him feel disrespected, that it was just a photo, that people were making it worse than it was. He said quietly, "They're not making it worse. They're just seeing it for what it is." He turned off the light and went to sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, furious at his calm, his coldness, his refusal to fight. I wanted him to yell, to cry, to do anything that proved I still mattered, but he didn't. He just built this wall of quiet around himself, and I couldn't climb over it. The next morning, I heard the printer running. I walked into the office and saw him sliding papers into a file. When he noticed me, he said only, "I have a meeting today." "With who?" "Someone who helps people when they've had enough." I laughed, thinking he was bluffing. "You're not serious." He didn't even look up. "You'll see." Later, when I came home from work, the house was spotless. Too spotless. Every surface wiped, every drawer closed. A single business card sat on the counter, the same one from his drawer. I picked it up. On the back, he'd written one sentence. "Actions have paperwork too." I threw it in the trash, muttering that he was being dramatic. But deep down, my chest was tight. Because, for the first time since that party, I realized Ethan wasn't angry anymore. He was done, and that was much, much worse. I didn't hear from Ethan for 2 full days after that. Not a text, not a call, Not even a note, just silence. At first, I told myself he was bluffing, trying to scare me. He'd always been the reasonable one, the man who avoided conflict, who needed time to cool off before he could talk. So I waited. I made the house spotless, wore perfume when I knew he'd be home, cooked dinner like nothing had happened. The third night, he came in late. I was sitting at the kitchen table with wine and candles like some sad movie wife. He walked past me, straight to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and went upstairs without a word. I stared at the doorway, realizing that silence was the new language he'd chosen to speak to me in. The next morning, I went to work pretending everything was fine, but the air felt different. Colleagues didn't make small talk. The ones who used to laugh at my stories now avoided eye contact. Someone had shared the gossip page, the one where Leo's photos had blown up. They'd written some snide caption like, "Wife's wild night out turns viral disaster." I wanted to crawl under my desk. I tried calling Leo again during lunch. No answer. Finally, I texted, "Do you even understand what you've done to my life?" He replied hours later, "It's not my fault you lied to your husband." I stared at the message until my hands shook. Then I deleted his number. When I got home that night, Ethan was in the living room, laptop open, typing something. He didn't even glance at me when I asked what he was working on. "Just updating some records," he said flatly. His tone made me pause. I asked if he was still angry. He said, "No, I'm finished being angry." That scared me more than any shouting ever could. I tried to sound calm. "You're really going to throw away our marriage over a few stupid photos?" He didn't look up. "You didn't throw it away overnight. You've been chipping at it for years." I hated the way he said you, like he was analyzing me from far away, not even part of the story anymore. I started crying, partly from fear, partly from rage. "You think this is all my fault. You never even look at me anymore. You made me feel invisible." He closed the laptop, finally meeting my eyes. "You don't become visible by destroying everything around you." Then he walked upstairs again. I spent the next day rewriting the story for anyone who would listen. To Clara, I said the internet was exaggerating. To my sister Hannah, I said Ethan had always been controlling. To co-workers, I shrugged it off and laughed like it was gossip about someone else. I made sure to post a photo on my social media that night, just me in good lighting, captioned, "People love drama." I prefer the truth. It got 50 likes in an hour, which I told myself meant I was winning the narrative. The truth was, Ethan's silence was starting to crush me. He stopped wearing his ring. He slept in the guest room full time now. I'd hear him up at night, typing quietly in his office. Sometimes I'd peek in, pretending I needed water, but he'd just minimize the screen and give me a polite smile like I was a neighbor dropping by uninvited. Then one evening, I noticed he'd moved a few of his clothes to the hall closet. When I asked why, he said, "I'm simplifying." Just that, simplifying. I wanted to scream that he was punishing me, that he was making me look like the crazy one. Instead, I said, "You're making this worse. People are already talking. You're embarrassing me." He didn't flinch. "You embarrassed yourself." I stormed out, called Clara, told her he was being cruel. She said maybe I should apologize properly. "He's not the type to forgive easily, Mia," she said, "but he's not spiteful either. Maybe you should show him you're serious." I said I was, though I didn't even know what that meant. 2 days later, I noticed Ethan on the phone in the backyard, pacing. His voice was calm but firm, the kind he used at work when he was closing a deal. I caught pieces, something about documentation and custody arrangements. My stomach twisted. Custody. He couldn't mean Noah. That night I asked, pretending to sound casual, "Were you talking to your lawyer again?" He looked up from his dinner. "Yes." I laughed too loud. "About what? The house? You can't just decide things like that without me." He set his fork down. "I can. And I will. I'm not yelling. I'm not calling you names. I'm just making sure Noah and I are protected. I froze. Protected from what? From me? He didn't answer. I followed him down the hall, my voice rising. You're turning everyone against me, your parents, my sister, even my friends. He turned around, calm as ever. You did that yourself. I'm just telling the truth. That stopped me. What truth? He hesitated, then said, the truth that you lied, humiliated me, and then tried to make it my fault. I wanted to hit him, shake him, anything to make him react. Instead, I said, you're not the saint you think you are. You ignored me for months. You pushed me to this. He looked at me for a long moment. You keep saying that like it makes you innocent. Then he went upstairs again, leaving me standing in the hallway, shaking. Over the next week, the separation became physical. He started locking drawers. His laptop had a new password. The credit card I used for groceries stopped working. When I called the bank, they said there'd been a change in authorization. I confronted him that night. You froze our account. My account, he said. Excuse me? I've moved my paychecks to a separate account. You can use the joint one for bills, but that's it. I tried to laugh it off. You can't just cut me off like some charity case. He didn't even blink. Then start earning your own money. For the first time, I didn't know what to say. That weekend, his parents came over. Elaine barely looked at me. Peter spoke quietly to Ethan in the driveway, while Noah played with his toy truck nearby. When I came out, they both stopped talking. I asked what was going on, and Peter said, we're just making sure our son and grandson are okay. I wanted to shout that I was part of this family too, but the words felt empty. I saw the way Elaine's eyes flicked toward me, pity mixed with disgust. Later that night, Hannah called. Ethan asked if Noah could stay with him for a few days. He told me you've been drinking a lot. I gasped. He said that? He's worried. He's manipulating you, I said, my voice shaking. He's trying to make me look unstable. Hannah hesitated. Then prove him wrong. Stop posting things online. Stop pretending this isn't serious. After she hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen scrolling through my phone. The gossip page had stopped posting about me, but the comments were still there, echoing. Poor husband. She doesn't even look sorry. Classic narcissist move. I wanted to reply to all of them, to explain that I wasn't heartless, that I just made one mistake. But I knew it wouldn't matter. A few days later, Ethan's lawyer emailed me, requesting documents, bank statements, property details, copies of Noah's school schedule. The tone was polite, professional, terrifying. I showed it to Clara, hoping she'd tell me it was nonsense. He's not playing around, she said quietly. He's building a case. I laughed, pretending I wasn't afraid. He can't win. Judges hate when husbands overreact. I'll just say it was a misunderstanding. But that night, when I saw the glow from Ethan's office under the door and heard the faint sound of a printer, I knew he wasn't overreacting. He was preparing. Before bed, I stood outside the guest room, staring at the closed door. Ethan, I said softly, can we talk? No answer. Please. After a long pause, I heard his voice, low, controlled. There's nothing left to talk about. The next morning, I woke to the sound of a courier ringing the bell. On the doorstep was a thick envelope with my name printed neatly on the front. Legal letterhead. When I opened it, my hands trembled. Inside was a formal notice, petition for separation, request for temporary custody, list of evidence attached. At the bottom was Ethan's signature. For a long moment, I just stared at it, my name printed beside his, separated by one small word that suddenly felt like a wall. Vers. I sat at the kitchen table for almost an hour after opening that envelope, staring at the papers like they were written in another language. Petition for separation. Temporary custody. Financial disclosures. All these words that looked sterile but felt like knives. I kept flipping through them, waiting to find a note or some explanation, some hint that he wasn't really serious. There wasn't one, just dates, signatures, and bullet points of everything I'd done wrong. I called Ethan over and over, but he didn't answer. I texted him, "We can talk about this like adults." Nothing. "You don't have to do this. Please." Still nothing. The silence was louder than any fight we'd ever had. By afternoon, I drove to his office, desperate. The receptionist looked startled to see me. "He's in a meeting," she said. I told her I'd wait. She offered me water. I sat there for 30 minutes before Ethan finally walked out of the conference room. He froze when he saw me but didn't look angry, just tired. "Why are you here?" he asked quietly. "You blindsided me," I said. "You could have told me before sending lawyers to my door." "I did," he said. "You just weren't listening." "That's not fair. You're ending a marriage over photos." He sighed. "I'm ending a marriage over years of disrespect. The photos were just proof." Then he turned to leave. I grabbed his sleeve. "You can't take Noah away from me." He looked down at my hand until I let go. "I'm not taking him away. I'm protecting him from this chaos." "This chaos? You mean me?" He didn't answer. He just walked past me and out the door, leaving me standing there in front of his coworkers, humiliated. When I got home, I called Clara. She was quiet for once, which scared me more than if she'd shouted. "He's actually doing it," I said. "He filed papers." Clara exhaled. "Mia, I think you need to stop talking about it online. People are starting to pick sides." "Of course they're picking sides," I snapped. "He's making me out to be some monster." "I'm not saying he's right," she said carefully, "but he's being smart. You should be smart too. Get a lawyer." I hated that she sounded calm, like this was normal. "I don't need a lawyer. We'll fix it. He's just angry." But Ethan wasn't angry anymore. He was steady, focused, dangerous in that quiet way men get when they've made up their minds. 2 days later, his lawyer emailed again. Requests for bank statements, household inventory, Noah's school contact information. Each message was colder than the last. I ignored them at first, then wrote back, "You're not scaring me." But even as I typed it, my hands shook. That night, Hannah came over. She brought dinner like I was sick. "You look awful," she said gently. "Thanks," I muttered. She set down the food and sat across from me. "Mia, he's serious. He's meeting with mediators. Mum told me he's already moved some money into a trust for Noah." I laughed even though my stomach twisted. "Oh, great. So now he's a hero father saving our son from his wicked wife?" Hannah didn't smile. "You keep calling yourself the victim, but you did this." I slammed my hand on the table. "I made one mistake." "One night might have been the start," she said softly, "but it's everything you've said and done since that's breaking him." I looked away, blinking hard. "You sound just like him." "Maybe because he's the only one making sense right now," she said. Then she left, leaving the food untouched. By morning, my parents called too. Mum tried to stay neutral. Dad didn't. "Ethan's a good man," he said. "You're throwing away stability for attention." "I don't need a lecture," I snapped. "Then you need a wake-up call," he said, and hung up. The house felt emptier every day. Ethan came and went quietly, always polite, never cruel, which somehow made it worse. He started packing small things, his books, his tools, his old records. Every time I noticed something missing, I told myself it was temporary. He was just making space, clearing his head. But deep down, I knew. He was preparing to leave for good. When the custody mediator called, I almost laughed. The woman's voice was calm, professional. "We'd like to set up a preliminary meeting," she said. I told her there was no need, that this was all a misunderstanding. She said, "It's standard procedure." I hung up on her. That evening, Ethan came home while I was on the phone with Clara again. He overheard me saying, "He's trying to paint me as unstable." He set down his bag. "You're doing that yourself." "Eavesdropping now?" I shot back. He didn't rise to it. "Stop playing the victim, Mirielle. It's exhausting." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I'm sorry. Does my emotional breakdown inconvenience you? He looked at me for a long moment, then said, You still think this is a performance? You can't win an audience here. When he walked away, I felt something crack inside me. It wasn't guilt. It was panic, the realization that I couldn't charm or manipulate my way out of this anymore. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by old photo albums, our wedding pictures, vacations, Noah's first birthday. Ethan smiling, holding me, looking proud. I wanted to believe that man still existed somewhere inside him. I sent him a long text, half apology, half plea. We built a life together. Don't destroy it over pride. I still love you. I can fix this. He didn't reply. The next morning, a knock came at the door. A courier again. Another envelope. This one thinner but heavier somehow. Inside was an official notice. Preliminary custody hearing scheduled. Friday, 10 a.m. I called Ethan immediately. You could have told me, he said. You would have tried to talk me out of it. You're making a fool of yourself, I said. Everyone's going to think you're bitter. Maybe, he said calmly, but they'll also know I'm done being your story. The line went dead. For the rest of the week, I tried to rebuild the version of myself I wanted people to see. I posted photos of Noah and me at the park, wrote captions about co-parenting peacefully, pretending it was mutual. I even smiled in the pictures, though my eyes looked hollow. Clara texted me saying I should delete them before they made things worse. I ignored her. The day before the hearing, I found a plain envelope on the doorstep. Inside was a note from Ethan, written in his tidy handwriting. Please be respectful in court. This isn't about revenge, it's about ending things properly. Attached was a photocopy of our marriage certificate with a line drawn under the date, like he was marking an expiration. I tore it in half. That night I drank too much wine and called Hannah again. She didn't pick up. I left a voicemail. He's making me look insane. Everyone's on his side. You'll all regret it when he moves on and forgets me. I regretted it the moment I hung up, but it was too late. In the morning, the house was silent. Noah was staying with Ethan for the week, part of their temporary arrangement. I walked through the rooms, touching the walls, the furniture, the framed pictures still hanging like ghosts of another life. On the kitchen counter sat Ethan's old mug, the one that said, "Keep calm and code on." I wanted to smash it, but I couldn't. It felt like breaking something sacred. As I was about to leave for court, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. My face looked older, tired, meaner somehow. I whispered to myself, "You're fine. He's bluffing." But when I arrived at the courthouse and saw him standing there, calm suit, clean shave, holding a folder neatly labeled evidence, I knew it wasn't a bluff. He didn't even look angry. He looked free. I forced a smile, but my throat felt tight. For the first time since that party, I realized I wasn't the one in control anymore. He was. And no matter what I said or did next, the story had already been rewritten, without me. The courtroom didn't look like I'd imagined. It wasn't grand or dramatic, just pale walls, low ceilings, the faint smell of old coffee. A clerk called names without looking up, and when she said Voss versus Voss, I felt my stomach flip. Ethan stood on the other side of the room, hands folded in front of him, eyes steady. He didn't even glance my way. My lawyer, a woman named Grace who I hired last minute, whispered that it was just a preliminary hearing. "It's routine," she said. "We'll argue for joint custody and pause the financial separation until mediation." I nodded like I understood, though my chest was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Ethan's lawyer spoke first. His voice was calm, factual. He talked about evidence of public misconduct, marital instability, and exposure of a minor to online ridicule. Each phrase hit like a stone. Then he started listing the exhibits, screenshots of Leo's posts, gossip site headlines, even my own social media updates. He'd printed everything. Grace objected to relevance, but the judge allowed it. When the photos appeared on the projector, my throat went dry. Seeing them blown up like that, the rooftop lights, my laughing face, Leo's arm around me, it didn't look like a fun night anymore. It looked like betrayal frozen in pixels. Ethan didn't react. Not once. He just stared straight ahead, the same calm expression he'd worn for weeks. When it was my turn, Grace tried to shift focus. She said I'd made a mistake, that I was remorseful, that online images didn't represent a whole marriage. I wanted to nod, to look contrite, but I couldn't stop thinking about how carefully Ethan had built this case. Every detail, every date, every lie I'd told was lined up in order, impossible to deny. When the judge asked if I wanted to speak, I said yes. My voice came out shaky but loud enough. "I'm not perfect," I said. "I did something stupid, but Ethan's not innocent either. He shut me out for months, made me feel invisible. I was lonely, not malicious." Ethan's lawyer simply replied, "Feeling lonely is not a legal defense for adultery, Your Honor." The words stung more than I expected. The judge didn't make a final ruling that day. He said he needed time to review the evidence but issued temporary orders. Ethan would have primary custody until mediation, and finances would be managed through separate accounts. I heard the words, but they didn't feel real until I saw Ethan sign the papers right there in front of me. When the session ended, he gathered his documents neatly. I wanted to say something, anything, but all that came out was, "You really did this." He met my eyes for the first time in weeks. "No," he said quietly. "You did." Then he walked away. Outside, the air felt too bright, too sharp. I called Clara, but she didn't answer, probably avoiding me now that everyone knew the truth. Even my sister hadn't texted since last night. I walked to my car in a daze, holding the papers so tightly they crumpled in my hand. When I got home, Noah's toys were gone from the living room. His shoes, his backpack, all missing. Ethan must have picked them up earlier. The sight hit harder than the court order. The house didn't sound like a home anymore, just walls and silence. I poured a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me. It used to be Ethan's spot. He'd drink coffee there every morning, scrolling through his phone while I complained about work. Now the chair looked like a ghost. I thought about texting him again, maybe begging this time, but pride stopped me. I told myself he was overreacting, that he'd calm down eventually, that people forget. But even as I thought it, I knew this wasn't one of those fights that faded. This was permanent. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the photos projected on the wall, the whispers in the courtroom, the way he never raised his voice once. I used to think the worst thing he could do was yell at me. I was wrong. The worst thing he could do was not care anymore. The next morning, Hannah showed up unannounced. She stood in the doorway, hesitant. "I just came to check on you," she said. "I'm fine," I lied. She walked in, looking around. "It's quiet." "Yeah, that's how he likes it." She sat down across from me. "He's not trying to ruin you, Mir. He's trying to move on." I scoffed. "By taking my son?" "He's not taking him. He's giving him stability." I looked away. "You sound like his lawyer." "I sound like someone who's tired of watching you twist everything," she said softly. "You keep saying you wanted to be seen. Now everyone sees you. Are you happy?" Her words burned, and I almost snapped at her, but she stood up before I could. "You can still fix your life," she said. "Just stop pretending this isn't your fault." Then she left. After she was gone, I walked through the house touching everything Ethan hadn't taken yet. His jacket still hung by the door. His mug still sat on the counter. But the ring I'd left on the sink was gone. He must have taken it. That detail made me shake. He didn't want to yell, didn't want revenge. He wanted erasure. By late afternoon, I got an email from his lawyer summarizing the hearing. At the end was one sentence. Mr. Voss respectfully requests that all future communication occur through counsel. That was it. I wasn't allowed to talk to my own husband anymore. For the first time, I realized what all his silence had been leading to. Not punishment, not anger, but distance. Legal, permanent distance. I tried calling Clara again. She finally answered, but sounded cold. "I don't think we should talk for a while," she said. "Are you serious? People at work are whispering. I can't have that right now." "So you're choosing them over me?" "I'm choosing peace," she said. "You should try it." Then she hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, the emptiness of it all pressing on me like a weight. My parents stopped answering too. My sister wouldn't come back. Everyone had found safety in his calmness, and I was left alone with the noise I'd created. That night, I went through my phone gallery. I deleted every picture of the rooftop, of Leo, of that stupid night. But when I reached the wedding photos, I couldn't delete them. In one, Ethan was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. I remembered thinking I'd never lose that look. Now it was gone for good. The next morning, I heard a car pull up outside. For a second, I thought maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he was here to talk. But when I opened the door, it was another courier, another envelope. Inside were finalized temporary orders, his custody approved, financial control transferred. Attached was a receipt from the courthouse with his signature. At the bottom, a note in Ethan's handwriting. "You said you wanted to feel alive. I hope this feels real enough." I sat down on the floor, the papers scattered around me. For the first time, I couldn't cry or argue or blame anyone. It was quiet, so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock. The house, the marriage, the version of myself I'd been defending. It all felt like a story that had already ended, even though I was still standing in it. When I finally looked up, the sun was setting through the kitchen window, lighting the dust in the air. It looked almost peaceful, like the world was moving on without me. And maybe it already had.